so happy that you took the time to join us. My name is Jason Murray. I'm the mentorship chair of the chapter. And this afternoon, you're in store for another great session. We have these sessions the first Thursday of each month. Last month, we had an excellent lineup. And today is going to be even better because we get better each and every time. We get better each and every time. So this afternoon, we have the pleasure of having Lenora Billings-Harris, Hall of Fame speaker, a longtime member of Black NSA, as well as the National Speakers Association. And today, as we do all times, the presenter, the mentor is going to be sharing her journey. She's going to share her journey. She's going to provide you with some tips. But then the balance of the session is going to be you, the attendees who are here to really ask Lenora questions and really gain some further insights from a Hall of Fame speaker, someone who's been in the business for a long time. And I'm not necessarily going to share her bio, but I will just point out I had the pleasure of meeting her with one of our millionaire mastermind groups. I think it was 2 or 3 sessions ago,
Mhm.
and Lenora participated in that group, and I was also participating in that mastermind. So I had a chance to meet her virtually then. This year at Influence, I had the opportunity to meet her personally. So um, for those who haven't met her, those who will meet her today for the first time, or if you have not necessarily heard some of her insights, you're in store for a great afternoon. So I would now like to bring to the floor our mentor of today, Lenora Billing-Harris. Let's
Thank
take it
you
away.
so much, Jason. I'm just really quite humbled to be with all of you because so many of you have expertise that I don't have, as we look at 2025 and moving forward. Um, I hope that I'll be able to share a few tips and suggestions that will be useful to you. Most importantly, though, I am very transparent. That is just part of who I am. So don't hold back. Please feel free to ask me anything you want to know, and especially anything regarding NSA leadership, or leadership at the global level, since I've been through so many steps on that journey. So to start with, a little bit about who I am and my speaker journey. My background had been initially in training and development, learning and development, as they call it now, and then in HR more directly. I started in that arena, working for the Graduate School of Business at University of Michigan. And when I joined that team, it was the department within the Graduate School of Business that ran seminars and workshops for leaders, managers around the country and around the world, but they ran them all in Ann Arbor. I knew nothing about speaking, training, none of that, because before that I was a high school teacher. But I got married, or I should say, I got married and moved to Michigan. My husband was working for University of Michigan, and so I'm looking for a job, and getting into the school system was next to impossible. And this position came open, and that's when I discovered I loved being around adults who wanted to learn. This was so long ago that professional speaker as a title didn't even exist. By today's standards, the job that I had was equivalent to a meeting planner. I was the person who went out and found the experts to come to help design and or speak in our workshops. So I had the opportunity to see lots of people doing their thing and realize that's what I really wanted to do. Then General Motors stole me away from University of Michigan, where I then, and while I was at Michigan, I got a master's in adult education with an emphasis on business because I knew that's what I now wanted to do. And General Motors stole me away. And my job was to design, develop, and then train other people to deliver week-long management development programs. And we delivered those programs all over North America. So that's when I fell in love with travel. And I traveled on my own. Now, to give you perspective, this was in the mid 70s. So here I was, Black, female, and traveling on my own to teach dealer owners, sales service and parts managers, how to be better managers. Little did I know that was my first step into diversity, because my area of expertise as a speaker is diversity, equity, and inclusion, as I'm transitioning from that, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, so I love doing what I was doing. I had a great time at it. And then we moved again because we were following my husband's career to Philadelphia, where I started working for what is now Cigna Corporation. And I was kind of getting tired of the learning and development. I loved it, but I wanted more. And I had the skills for more in HR. And then luckily they decided to merge, and that created opportunity for me where I got a great deal of experience in the HR field, and especially in organization development and that kind of thing. Then by the time we moved again, I knew I was ready to start my own business. So that was, I started my business in 1986. So of course, this was pre-internet, pre-email, AOL didn't even exist back then. And so I started my business, and little did I know that the headquarters for National Speakers Association was literally 3 miles from where I lived. I passed it regularly, but it said National Speakers Association. So I never equated it to what I did, because as you probably know, many people who deliver workshops, who are more trainers, don't see themselves as speakers. They didn't realize that we're all in the same industry, with speaking, keynote speaking just being one profession among them. Anyway, luckily there was a person, Ed Scannell, a past president of NSA, who was very persistent. And I had met him through other avenues, and he kept telling me, you need to join NSA. And so one of my tips to you, if you are not yet a member of NSA, that would be the first thing that you want to do, because NSA, National Speakers Association, is the organization where you learn not only how to speak better, to be better on the platform, but it's also the only place that's going to help you build your business. I was a member of American Society of Training and Development, now ATD, and I also have been a member of SHRM, Society of Human Resource Management. I was a member for years and years, kept up that membership, even though I was a member of NSA. And here's why. Sometimes people say, well, I don't need NSA because I'll go to those two organizations to develop my skills. They are not built for us. They don't teach us how to run our business. That's where you go to find clients. Now, you may learn some things, but that's how you position it. That's where you go to find clients, if that happens to be the right associations for you. So in any case, I started my business in '88. I went to a local chapter meeting, which was meeting in the Biltmore in Phoenix. So I thought, oh my gosh, they must be doing something right if that's where they're meeting. And I knew 10 minutes after being there that this was my community, and I had so much to learn. So, and there are lots of national presidents that live in Arizona, as do now live in North Carolina. So it was just an amazing experience. I went in June, the next conference, they didn't call it Influence way back then, was in July, and it was in Phoenix. And so I joined everything right away and went to the conference. And as they say, the rest is history, so to speak. My area of focus, as I said, is diversity, equity, and inclusion. When I first started, there was no such thing. It didn't really exist. And then it became diversity, and then it became diversity and inclusion. And now it's diversity, equity, and inclusion, to the degree that people in our field can do our work given the current political environment. And so I learned everything that I know about this business through other people within NSA. So I started out delivering workshops, really working for other people. So I was subcontracting with other organizations, and then eventually realized, learning from NSA colleagues, that if I wanted to make money, I needed to be delivering my own programs. And so eventually did that. Still not a platform speaker and didn't have a book or anything. And then eventually I realized, because my challenge was, how do I make DEI entertaining enough to be a keynote? Because when you're delivering a keynote, it has to be education and entertainment, so to speak. And I realized that my most favorite movie, The Wizard of Oz, was one where I talked about the characters at the end of all of my workshops, to tie everything I taught. I tied it together through those characters because they're diverse. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's a foundation for a keynote. And that became my most popular keynote for many years. So and then wrote a book. I have a couple of books. Now, in NSA, you'll meet people who've written as many as 70 books, which blows my mind. But I do have a couple of books that I will be using AI to help me reposition it and repurpose all of that information. And let's see. So that's kind of my career progression. Did all kinds of things in the DEI space. So as a consultant, I eventually learned coaching is not my thing. I did it enough to know that that was not the space I wanted to be in, but consulting, yes. And keynote speaking and delivering workshops all over the world, primarily in the US, but all over the world. And from a leadership perspective with NSA, as I said, back then there was no internet. So the only way that people would learn about NSA was by meeting somebody who was a member. And fortunately, I met someone who was persistent in trying to get me to join. And so I joined the chapter. Now, here's the funny story with my leadership perspective, progression. I was a member for 2 years. And on that 2-year mark, when I left my home to go to the meeting, I said to myself, I'm either going to get involved or I'm going to quit. Now, I was going to our Arizona chapter meetings, but I felt like I knew people and they were nice, but I wasn't engaged. And I figured that, they don't know me. They don't see me. Now, that was really stupid, since I was the only Black person in the room all the time. Like, of course they saw me, but I didn't sense that. I was not connected. However, I go to that meeting, and lo and behold, one of the board members asked me to run for the board. You could have knocked me over with a feather. And I'm like, run for the board. So, be careful what you ask for, because I clearly got involved. So I said yes. Of course, that put me on the board. And then Glenna Salisbury, a couple of years later, Glenna Salisbury has been an icon for NSA, and she passed away a few years ago. She came up to me, came to a meeting early, just as we were finishing the board meeting. And it was right when the chapter had to send their paperwork in to stay affiliated with NSA. And it was like we had to send it in like 2 days after. Excuse me. And so we took a break, and Glenna came up to me and she said, you have to be president-elect. At that time, we didn't do VPs. You would be president-elect and then you'd be president. And I'm like, what? No, I can't imagine. But it was Glenna, past president of NSA, who, she hadn't been president yet, but she was in leadership and she was on the board and all of that. And I respected her. And I became president-elect. Then I became president. And then I knew that I wanted to stay connected with NSA. And since I had leadership experience from my corporate life, I knew that I would be able to do various things. So I ultimately joined the board, was an appointee the first year, and so president of the chapter, then eventually joined the board. Willie Jolly and I came on the board at the same time, the first two Black people on the board. Then I eventually became NSA president, and then you stay on the board one more year as immediate past president. And I was already connected with Global Speakers Federation because I was doing international work. So I thought, well, this would be another opportunity. So once I finished my NSA board work, I eventually got involved with the Global Speakers Federation and eventually became president of the Global Speakers Federation. I was the first African American to do that. I am thrilled that so many people of color have been president of that organization as it has grown with the various countries involved. And so I've been awarded several awards within NSA and also a Global Speakers Federation. And what I would say to you in regards to just a few tips before we open it up for question is, number one, join NSA. Figure out a way, without going bankrupt, but figure out a way to get the membership money and join NSA. Because the vault that we have that's open to members is amazing. And if you're a member, every question you possibly would have, every form that you might need for your business, every idea you need about marketing or sales or platform skills or anything else you can think of, there's something in the vault where you can watch a video, where you can access the documents and that type of thing. It's an amazing resource. In fact, on one of the NSA videos, where a person is talking about the vault, and she says she did the math that if the people who did videos that are in the vault or provided information were paid $20,000 per speech, what we have in the vault is the equivalent of over $1 million. So it's just a resource that too many people overlook. So that would be one thing, along with joining NSA. The other is, if I had this to do over again, especially now because of the internet and everything, but I would, if I was doing it over again, I would have done a better job of staying connected with all of the people I met along the way, all of my clients, all of the attendees, to the degree you could get their information. I would do a better job of staying connected with them. Now you have resources that make that much easier, but I would encourage you to stay connected and follow up. So not just have their name and their email address, but do things on a regular basis, which I do now, and have certain different networks or people or groups of people where I do different things with. But what a resource I would have had had I done that right from the beginning, because pretty much all of my business has been through referral and repeat business. So I'm fortunate in that regard, but it could have been even better had I started that process sooner. And then the third thing I would say is, especially if you're an emerging speaker, you haven't been doing it very long, you may have heard about the certified speaking professional designation, and you might be thinking, oh, that's far in the future for you. Here's the thing. It is the only NSA designation that is a designation, not an award. That is to say, you get to determine when you qualify. That is, how many speaking engagements you've had, been a member of 5 years, and whatever all the other qualifications are. So if you're starting now, get the information on what is needed to receive your CSP, so that 6 or 7 years from now, you're not saying, darn, I want my CSP. Now I have to go backwards to find all the documentation that I need. Start doing it now. And if I'm correct, and someone online might be able to correct me on this, if you're using e-speakers, where you document, where you put all your information about your presentations, there's a button that it has that you can just click. Every time you add a new engagement, you can click that button to make sure it tracks who your client is, what your fees were, expenses, and all that kind of thing, so that it will tell you when you have achieved the magic number. Now, I don't know the details on what the rules are right now, because I've had my CSP for so long, but that would absolutely be my third one, because for this reason, even if you don't care about designations, all the information that eSpeakers has been set up to help you track is information you should be tracking anyway. And oh, by the way, it has a marketplace. So it's also a resource for you to find engagements. So, got any questions?
Yes, thank you so much. Let's give Lenora a big hand for her introduction. I told you it's going to be great. Let's give her a big hand. And now it's up to the attendees to ask questions. It looks like Pam Perry has her hand raised, and then I know there's a question in the chat also. There was a, a training and development organization that you mentioned. Aaliyah wanted to just get a verification on that, and then Pam, you can certainly ask your question.
Hey there. Thank you so much, Lenora. I appreciate that. Was actually a hand clap. That's what that was. But I do want to raise my hand and ask some questions for you. So you got your chops, I guess you would say, at U of M. I'm from Detroit, obviously. You can see that right there. Yay, yay, yay. And you've been in Speakers Magazine. And this is from a publicist, how has PR played a role in your speaking career?
Thank you so much. And thank you, Pam. I see you following me all the time and clicking likes and all that. I appreciate that so much. It has played I don't have a measurement for it, but it certainly has played a role in this way. We write our own introductions, we write our own bios and that kind of thing. And sometimes we don't realize what our meeting planners or bureaus and folks like that, or organizations like that, we don't know what they value. And what I have found is the more that you can distinguish yourself from other people doing the same work, the more people will remember you. So I was fortunate that the two covers that I in my other studio, I used to have all of my awards and everything behind me. I've changed that up now, but what I used to have back there is, on one plaque is the cover of Inclusion magazine, where I was on the cover, and the other one was Diversity Woman magazine. And, folks not in that space may not have ever heard of either one of those magazines, but I can tell you that when potential clients would see that I was featured in magazines, and then, other ways that I would identify my credentials, they're impressed with that. And so the more all of you can get, not only be on podcasts, which are becoming more and more important, but being on those podcasts and being in magazines, and that, it doesn't have to be the USA Today. I think I was in there once, but just getting that publicity, because all of that now is on the internet. So that's going to come up when people are checking you out. So I hope there you go, right, Pam? And by the way, regarding ASTD, and it's now called ATD, I see in the chat, Robert Kennedy, good to hear from you. Let's see, I don't know what the actual question was, but it is an organization of learning and development professionals, mostly corporate, and it's huge. And I've presented there several times, and I also presented several times at SHRM. So it's a good place to, if you can get on their platforms, which are always going to be breakout sessions because they bring high-level celebrities, you know, like really high-level celebrities like Hillary Clinton when she was just before she was running for the president, that kind of thing. But if you can get on their platform, it's another great way to get visibility.
Well, I could tell you, I can attest to Pam Perry's influence as a PR person because she recently wrote an article for me that was published. So I appreciate it and thank you so much. I did have a question also in terms of getting your CSP designation. So, for example, I'm a financial advisor, so I do workshops, and some of them I don't get paid for. So, or if I'm a guest on a podcast, or a panelist at a session, would that count towards my CSP designation, or does it have to be a paid
Okay,
role
so
that you have to
So
have?
again, I'm not the most current on what the most current rules are, but I'm
Mhm.
glad you asked that question for two reasons. So to answer your question directly, um, it might count as a presentation. But if you're not getting paid in any way, it wouldn't count for a paid presentation. Now, realize though that when you speak, so I'm again speaking to everyone, you might not get paid for being on the platform, but maybe your way of negotiating with the client was that they bought, 1,000 books, or there was some other way that you got compensation. So you definitely want to look into what are the rules these days for CSP, because I know those rules have changed to make it represent our population better. And there are many speakers who, they don't even want a fee. They want you to buy all their products, and they keep track of all of that. So that's one reason I'm happy you asked the question. The other is there is no such thing as a free speech. And here's how I mean that. If you speak to an organization that is not going to pay you any type of honorarium, you want to ask for some very specific things. Now, I put this in my contracts even when I am being paid. I may not get all of the things I'm going to tell you, and I change it up on what I ask for. But when I'm not going to be paid, then it's definitely part of the contract. So one is that the highest level person in the organization, which might not be the meeting planner, but the highest level person in the organization will write a testimonial for me. Now, here's an aside. It's hard to get. So give them samples, tell them they can edit it in any way, help them out in writing your testimonial so that you get your keywords in there that you know you want to have in the testimonial. So get a testimonial, request a video testimonial that ideally would be taken right after you finish speaking. So just take your smartphone and ideally get one of the, I have them, but I don't know the name of I don't know the brand, but you can get on Amazon a lapel mic that you can put on yourself and put on the speaker and connect it to your iPhone or to your smartphone. I know it works with the iPhone. So you can get good audio and get testimonial. Yeah, like if somebody knows the brand name, put it in the chat and get that video testimonial. Now you might get several, but put it in your contract that you're going to get one.
Okay.
The other thing I would ask for is the attendee list. Again, privacy issues come up all the time. If you can get their name and their email, fabulous. That's what you want to ask for. So don't hold back from asking. Ask and let them say no if they can't get it. The third or fourth, I usually ask for 5 things. And like I say, I move it around. Always have something you're going to leave with each of the participants. So make a large postcard or something that has some information about what you're talking about, but it has all of your contact information on it. So that just in case you can't get the attendee list, you have given them a way to contact you, and, you know, use QR codes, do all of those kind of things. And what's the other thing? And if they're going to videotape it, then I would get a copy of the videotape, both the raw footage as well as what they edit. So get that in both ways. Now, like I say, you might not get all of that, but all of those things are very useful to you. And then the last thing I ask for, and again, put it in a contract, is that the meeting planner will introduce me to 3 people who were not at the session, who hire speakers. So if they're a large organization, it could be somebody in another part of the organization, or if it was an association, something like that, it could be, you know, someone in another association or another business, who, you know, whoever, but somebody who does hire speakers that they think would be interested in me. And what you want them to do is to make an email introduction and copy you so that you can then follow up with them. I also send them my the actual link to my LinkedIn recommendation so that they don't have to look for it. So I sent in a follow-up email after I've presented, I will send that to them as well, so that, you know, obviously they have to be on LinkedIn, but that makes it a little bit easier for them to do some things. So hopefully you see that a free speech is not really free.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. So that question came up again. What was the name of the training and development organization that was mentioned?
Okay, it used to be called American Society of Training and Development, ASTD. Now it's called ATD, American. They took the training word out. Talent development, that's what it is. They call it's the Association of Talent Development, I think. But if you just Googled ATD, atd.org, it'll come up.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So attendees, the floor is yours. It looks like Ken Miller has his hands raised.
Did Jason have a question too? I don't know. Jason, did you get your question answered?
I think he was clapping.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
he was
We have to be careful
clapping.
these days. That happens to me all the time.
And I
And
posted
actually,
one in the
Leah,
chat.
Leah, if you
before
have another question, certainly
yeah,
feel free to ask that after Ken.
okay. I
Jason,
thought
I
it'd be
did put one in the
before me,
chat.
but
Okay.
no problem. Leah, do you want to go? Leah? Trying to be a gentleman.
You got it. You're there. You're ready.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate it. Hey, a couple things. Number one, I so honor you as a trailblazer. You know, you mentioned William, Willie Jolly, and there's some names that are literally on Mount Rushmore to me, at least, as a newbie. And I just honor and appreciate, because somebody has to break that trail. Literally, someone has to break that trail. And sometimes, I just want to make sure I give you your flowers on that.
Appreciate that.
Number two, this group is a mentorship group. And I just wondered, what are your thoughts about mentorship? Did you have a mentor? Do you mentor? And just the one other thing I'd like to ask, and if you can't do it, I'm cool with that, is could you send or provide a template of your contract? Just a generic version of your contract? Because some things you talked about, I'd never heard of. I've only been around about a year. So again, thank you. And just your thoughts on mentorship, your experience, and or what are your thoughts on that? Thank you.
Sure. I will, obviously, I can't multitask and send it to you right at this moment, but I'll send it to Jason, and Jason, if you could get it out to everybody
Okay.
in attendance, I'll send you one. So thank you so much for your comments about being a trailblazer. One of the things that I have recognized, because that's what other people call me, and initially, I used to be uncomfortable with that, but to your point, somebody's got to crack that door open. And one of the things that I that I realize about trailblazers, whomever they are. So, and whatever field they're in, I just commissioned a muralist to paint a mural on my wall in my office, and I have my trailblazers there, of many types. In any case, often the trailblazers, yes, they open the door. They don't receive the rewards that the people that follow them receive. They receive the recognition, and I appreciate that. But the importance of opening those doors is so that other people who come can get the rewards due them, or get the recognition due them, or get the compensation due them. So although, Willie and I have spoken even at NSA things often in the past about how difficult the journey was within NSA. I mean, it really was not easy, because just people have so many stereotypes. We fear that which we don't know, right? In any situation. And the folks in leadership then, to get uncomfortable with Black folks in leadership. And so I just feel humbled that I built enough trust with them that it took a while, but they finally figured out that they could vote for me. The board votes for who's the next president eventually. And so that did happen. And then the other important part of that is that the journey's not over. Once you do crack the door open, or you put a crack in this glass ceiling or whatever, it's our job to make sure that we're making space for people to come after us, intentionally, not just, hoping it'll happen. So to your question about mentorship, remembering that I joined in 1988 and weren't that many Black folks, what I have noticed, so I never had a speaking mentor. I had one or two mentors in my corporate life, but I never had someone who saw that I had potential and took me under their wing and really helped me build my business or speak better, that kind of thing. I didn't have that. And it was for two reasons, I think. One is because when I was in corporate world, I knew I had to carry myself in such a way that it looked like I knew what I was doing even before I knew what I was doing. You get what I'm saying? So, because I was always the only Black person, the only female, especially when I got into leadership positions. So I always carried myself as though, just with that confidence that it made other people think, oh, she doesn't need help. Now that had some benefits, but in NSA, I think in the early years, I did carry myself that way. And once again, for that reason, if there were people that would have reached out to me, they didn't. Then compound that by the fact that there were so few of us in the early days that people, I don't know that it even occurred to them, because typically we mentor people who are similar to ourselves. And then what I started to notice is that Black men received mentors much easier than Black women as speakers. Again, I think just because of difference. I think it's easier now than it had been in the past, but it's just, people needing to get beyond whatever their own biases are, which I think argues even more to the next part of your question is, do I mentor? I look for people that are serious about being successful in this business. And I clearly know I don't know everything, because, I don't know everything about AI. Of course, nobody knows everything about AI because it changes about every nanosecond. But, I know some things that that I have done over time that are still useful today. And what I say to folks when I am, when we decide this will be a mentorship relationship, I don't make it formal and organized, because I make it clear to folks, I'm not a speaker's coach. Because there's many different aspects of this business that you need direction and advice on. So I'm not a speaker's coach. I tend to be better at helping you hear what your present circumstance is and directing you to resources, or sharing some of what I've done that might be helpful. And then if we discover you need a platform coach now, then I might be able to recommend some people that, how can you be better on the platform? How do you write a speech if that's what you need? Or maybe you're ready for that first book and how to write that book. So my point is, I see myself more as a connector to the best degree that I can be one. And so I could still use a mentor. So I'm signed up for Black NSA Mastermind again, because I'm working on something now in that transition stage, and I need to learn from other people. I need to find out what are some of the resources out there that will make what I'm doing easier, so that I'm not having to recreate the wheel, and to just be energized by all of you that are in the beginning or in the middle of your own careers, because I no longer get excited about getting on an airplane and flying somewhere, staying in a hotel, speaking for an hour or 90 minutes, and then flying back home. I loved it when I did it. And, being able to be on 5 continents on somebody else's dime has been fabulous. But that's not what motivates me now. What motivates me now is to get to the most serious part, in my mind, of inclusion. And that is teaching people how to have difficult and challenging conversations, and do it online, asynchronous and synchronous, so that I'm not having to be in the middle of it all the time. That the programs will happen whether I'm, on another world cruise or something else. So it was a long answer, but your question was long too. So I hope I answered all parts of it.
Excellent. Outstanding. Told y'all this was going to be a great session as always. So I know Aaliyah has a question. We're going to give her an opportunity to ask her question. And then there's 2 questions in the chat. So I'm just going to specify those 2 questions. Letha wanted to know, what's the last book that you've read? And what is the best book that you've read?
Ooh.
As well, Lori wanted to know, will you share your value of being connected as a speaker at the global level and share your global journey? So
Okay, so
those
we're
are
gonna
2
take one at a
questions.
time.
Those are 2 questions, but Aaliyah has a question also. So that's the flow that we're going to go with.
Okay, so let me see. In regards to books, I read several books at a time. So let me see what comes up. And I listen to, I do a lot of audiobooks these days, because I like to listen to them while I'm on the treadmill or walking or whatever. And let's see what I am reading right now. I just started it. And it's written by one of our members, and it's called Lies About Black People. Lies About Black People, and how to combat racist stereotypes, and why it matters. And it's written by Omakongo Dibingo. I know how to spell it, right? But just look, Lies About Black People. Omakongo Dibingo is another amazing Black speaker, author. I don't know if he's doing consulting right now. Rapper, poet. He's just amazing on lots of levels. So check him out. I'm enjoying that book. And in regards to other books, I tend to read books. I'm trying to get into reading more fiction, but I keep gravitating toward nonfiction, because I just keep wanting to learn from other people. And having just turned 75, I read, the other book that I'm reading right now is Heal Thyself for Health and Longevity. And that's by, who is that by? Queen, Queen AFUA. So those would be the two. And, you know, most of my other books that I am reading or have read have something to do with DEI. So you might be able to see on my shelf, you probably can't read it, but I have Cast up there, and 1619, books like that, that I try to read. And then also Amanda Gore, Amanda Gore, the poet. I love everything she does. So, you know, I like to watch her and read her poems, that kind of thing. So that was the books. What was the question? Next question after that, I forgot.
Will you share your global journey?
Oh, the global journey. Yes, Lori, thank you. Thank you for being here. So I was introduced to global travel before I started my business. I had the opportunity, I turned it down, but I had the opportunity to become director of learning, what would now be learning and development, for Cigna Corporation for their European agencies. So I turned down the opportunity for lots of personal reasons, but I traveled to Belgium in particular. I traveled there a few times and realized, oh, there's a whole big world out there, and I want to see as much of it as possible. So when I'm trying to think, and then I went to, for General Motors, I traveled to Australia. And when I became a speaker, trainer, consultant, I knew someday I wanted to do this work internationally. Now, as I said before, I'm very transparent. And I believe that when you get clear about your what, a lot of people say, figure out what your why. That's important too. Got to figure that out first, your why you do anything in the first place. And then get clear about your what. When you're clear about the what, and I'll explain that in a minute, the how will come to you. You don't have to keep worrying about the how. Now, I'm saying it, I still struggle with it all the time. With the how, I want to know exactly how everything's going to work. But here's how I mean what I just said. In my third grade teacher was my first Black teacher, Miss Jacobson. And at the end of that school year, she told us she was going to Africa. Well, I grew up in, I mean, at least I started, you know, I was born in Newark, New Jersey. So here's this little Black girl in Newark, New Jersey in third grade. And I've got my first Black teacher, the first one who I felt saw me. And she said she was going to Africa. And, you know, most people think of Africa as a country instead of a continent, which is one of my pet peeves, to try to change that. But in any case, it was so far away and I wanted to go. And if she could go, I could go. Representation is important. So it was always a dream of mine. Of course, it was just way in the back of my head. So then I get a little bit of international travel and realize I really like it. And then after I'd been a member of NSA for just a few years, because I joined in 88, one of the members who's an NSA member and an Arizona chapter member, he and I got to chit-chatting, and he was a consultant and way ahead of me in his career. He said, have you ever thought about going to Africa? I said, yes. He said, I know somebody. And this was pre-Mandela getting out of prison. At the next conference, he connected me to the, it would be a training company, what we would call a training company here. He introduced me to the people that own that training company because they were exhibiting at NSA. They wanted to hire me immediately to come to South Africa. I said, when Mandela is free, I will come. In 1991, after Mandela was free, I started going to South Africa for 3 weeks at a time, twice a year. So that's what started my international work. And then, and they did all the preparation. All I had to do was show up and be prepared to talk about a whole lot of things because they booked all of these things over 3 weeks. And then that's when I got serious about, okay, I really want to do this. And then I started paying more attention to my clients. So when a US client was based, they may have offices here, but their headquarters was somewhere else, then I would make a point of staying connected and trying to get work in those other locations. Or if they're headquartered here and they have locations in other parts of the world. So for instance, one of my clients that is headquartered here, I was doing some work for them and they said, well, we want our international international employees to be exposed to this as well. On their dime, I went to Nigeria, South Africa, Copenhagen, and I think it was Belgium again, and went to several different places. And so for me, most of my international work happened because I was working with clients that were international in some way, or I got a referral from them. So it's working those referrals and the repeat business. And then the other piece is being active within Global Speakers Federation. Now, let me explain something real quick. Global Speakers Federation, you as an individual cannot be a member. Associations are members. It's a federation of associations around the world, of which we have many professional speaker associations around the world. When I was president of Global Speakers Federation, I think we had 11, and now we have like 22 or something like that. It's really huge, so it keeps growing. And way before I became president, I decided, well, since I want to speak more often internationally, I'll go to their conferences. And so on my own dime, I would go to their conferences. And I will tell you that the international folks roll out the red carpet for you. They're so excited for us at NSA to come to their events, whether you're in leadership or not. And you make great connections. Now, unfortunately, NSA has just dropped their membership within the Global Speakers Federation. However, that will not hold you back from going to any one of their conferences. So what I would suggest to you in that regard is go to globalspeakers.net. I believe that's their website, globalspeakers.net, and look at where the associations are, figure out which ones what countries you might want to do work in, and then click on their website, figure out who their president is or somebody, and just start developing a relationship, a conversation. Lethea and I actually connected when we were in Dubai, when the Speakers Federation Summit was in Dubai many years ago. So that's another great way to but again, it's go be visible. What I used to say at NSA, I mean, Black NSA events all the time is I just kept showing up. I mean, it kept showing up. I am not going away. So the people know I was serious. And so show up, be visible. You will stand out in a good way. And that is to your advantage.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So we have 3 individuals, Aaliyah, then Tony, then we have Keith, in that order. Aaliyah, you can take your off mute and ask your question.
Thank you. So my name is Aaliyah Gibbs, and I am the AI trainer for the next generation. And you mentioned earlier how it's important, the more that you distinguish yourself, it helps you become remembered against the people who are doing the same work. And so what I'm noticing is a lot of people who are calling themselves AI trainers, their experience with AI is limited to just generative AI tools. But they actually don't have technical backgrounds in AI. Me, I'm almost done with my master's in AI, and I'm an AI engineer as well. So it's like I actually really do this when it comes to AI. And so I'm just looking for some tips and tricks or techniques that you recommend that I study to help me when I do my learning and development sessions, because I travel and I train probably on average about 1,000 people per month on how to use artificial intelligence. So
Mhm.
just any techniques that can help me stand out against the noise.
The other people that are saying, you know, the good news and the bad news about our profession is, and I say profession, you'll hear a lot of people say industry. We're a part of the speaking industry. We are one profession in the speaking industry, whether it's, you know, writing books or how we use the spoken word, whether it's in print or on the platform, that kind of thing. But Aaliyah, going back to the comments I made earlier of identifying how you are different from other people in your bios, in your taglines, in all of those kinds of things, without slamming other people, how, you know, what might be those things that do distinguish you. And you might need to partner up with somebody who doesn't know what you do. And that could be a relative, it could be a friend. I mean, it doesn't know what you do in detail. That is, they're not in your same lane. And tell them a little bit about what you do, and then have them just keep asking you questions. That's one way to help you uncover what your jewels are, you know, what those gems are that other people will want. When you speak, when you're speaking to 1,000 people a week, pay attention to what they say to you after the event, whether it's online or whether it's in writing or in person. When somebody comes to you afterward and said, Aaliyah, you were fantastic, don't just say thank you. And this is for everybody. One of the things I learned a long time ago, because NSA people would say, be authentic. And I would say, what is that? I mean, I know who I am, but you know, what do you mean by that? And here's how I figured it out. What my authenticity was to other people is when someone would come to me after a presentation and tell me that they loved it, I would, of course, say thank you. And then I say, help me know what I did or said that resonated with you, so that I can repeat it. Because I don't want them to think I'm just fishing for more compliments. But, you know, help me know and listen to what they say. You will discover that there are certain words, certain phrases, certain ways that they see you that you might not know. So in my case, what I didn't realize, because DEI was so common sense, matter of fact to me, and of course I studied it once there were books on it, and once there were other people doing the work. What I didn't realize is that my audience members and clients saw me as someone who could take an uncomfortable, complex topic and make it non-threatening and easy to understand. I got that from listening to how other people identified me. So I would suggest doing something like that. And then however you can in your descriptions of yourself, make sure that at the top of it, not buried way in the bottom somewhere, you make comments about your credentials, because those matter. And in today's world where everybody can be a podcaster, everybody can be an expert on anything, because you could, you know, hang out the shingle, so to speak, and say you are, that's how you could distinguish yourself. I hope that's helpful.
Yes, it was, because I'm noticing they're spreading misinformation on AI because they don't have a technical background in it. So it's like they might have just watched a YouTube video and now they're explaining technical definitions, but they're incorrect. And that can just be very dangerous, especially when it's on social media and large platforms.
So, you know, what comes across to me just in what you shared just now is you're the person who knows all those acronyms. You're the person who really knows what AI can do. So however you can do that in a memorable way, you know, in a catchy way, perhaps work on some taglines that'll make it easy. When people think of AI, they think of Aaliyah. And I notice your first name starts with an A. If there's a way that you can tie that together, you know, there's some creative folks out there in that regards. It wouldn't be me, but there'll be somebody that can help you with that regard, in that regard.
Lenora, may I speak to that just a moment, being a branding strategist and also being a technologist like Aaliyah, having the technical, chutzpah and the credentials to back up, what we're talking about. I so get what you're saying, Aaliyah, and in your and I think Lenora may have said this, but in your tagline or in your positioning statement in the hero section of your webpage, I would deal with that. I would make it very clear that you are the real deal and whatever your language and whatever your voice is. And this may not be your vibe or whatever, but an AI expert who has the credentials to, or something that just makes it clear. I'm not, it's not coming top of mind right now, but I think if you actually make that part of your branding, that um, have the intelligence and the credentials to do this work in a way that speaks to the audience that you're going after, I think that's a way to keep it front and center. And then also create a video that's a short video that is on your YouTube channel and on your website that addresses the fact that you can work with a person who learned AI, a month ago or 2 years ago, or someone who has been doing this, and then say how many years you've been actually engrossed in this, and use that as a point of differentiation.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. Because again, that's why I suggested that you talk to somebody that doesn't know what you do in depth, so that they can help pull that out of you. Because all of that is important. And with AI and with social media, you could do lots of shorts, just pick something that people keep misunderstanding and do a short on that will come up on YouTube. And I mean, there's just lots of ways that you can play with that. Now, as we're answering Aaliyah's question directly, that applies to all the rest of us as well. Because as a DEI strategist, I mean, there's a whole bunch of folks, just because they are my skin color, they get hired as diversity strategists or diversity speakers. I'm like, they're a football player. What I'm not saying football players don't know anything about DEI, so please don't misunderstand, but their expertise is not DEI. But lots of folks will say they're an expert in something and get hired for it, so just, you have to play against that. Now, don't let that discourage you, because the universe is big. There's plenty of space for all of us.
Thank you. I did drop my tagline is AI explained by an AI engineer. And then my business is Aaliyah's Intelligence. So it's acronym AI.
Yeah, got it. Oh, that's great.
Congratulations. All right, Tony, you're up.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Tony Davis, and I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. I was encouraged to join the National Speakers Association, Black National Speakers Association, by a young lady named Carol Copeland Thomas. And I have to say that she has been a whirlwind of change in my life since I've known her, almost 2 years now. And I like to say that Les Brown was a mentor of mine. I never got to meet him personally, but from his videos and reading his books, it gave me a sense of being able to be a lot stronger, as well as using the power of my voice. Today, I'm a board member at Lena Park Community Center here in Boston, and I created an organization called Mastermind Organized Effort Public Speaking Leadership Academy. The goal, my chief aim for WMOE Public Speaking Leadership Academy, is to teach my folks within the community that you have power in your voice, and you can begin to use that power in your voice to make some change. Also, with the youth that are running wild, how do we begin to reconnect with them on an emotional level, on a social level? So I also do the best I can with the information that I have and researched. Well, a little bit about my background. I went to MIT because here in Massachusetts, you got to have a piece of paper behind you to say that your ethos, your credibility. I went to MIT, and the course was persuasive communication, critical thinking in order to enhance the message. And public speaking, a lot of people think that public speaking is on the stage. You're not really understanding that public speaking starts from the time you get up, from the time you begin to communicate with yourself, from the time you begin to communicate with your children, your family, and your friends. It's a much greater stage than in an auditorium.
Brother Tony, with all due respect, we certainly appreciate you sharing. And we would certainly like to have you maybe give a testimonial towards the end as to what was your biggest takeaways. But we would like you to focus on asking the question. And then after that, perhaps you can give a testimonial in terms of what was your biggest takeaway from today's session.
Right, I understand. Sometimes I get a little long-winded, so
Okay,
yeah,
it's good. It's good. We're gonna reel you in. We good.
No
it's-
worries.
We family here.
yeah, I get a little
Family here.
excited when I'm here in order to be able to get a better understanding and get better direction. So I'm open for any type of correction for sure. My question is, with 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 everything that you've experienced in your growth process, how would you recommend, or how would you see me growing in NSA, and what will be the benefits for me?
Okay, couple of things. Thank you, Tony, for sharing. I'm going to start with something that a phrase that you used earlier, because I've got a pet peeve about it. So it's not directed to you. We are
No,
not we are not public speakers.
okay,
We are professional speakers.
okay,
And every time I present to an NSA chapter, I make that point. Here's why. There are some public speakers who are extraordinary, Tony Robbins and other folks like that who are not members of NSA. But every time you pay your membership, now I know some of you aren't members yet, but every time you pay your membership, you are signing a code of ethics that states that you are going to uphold that code of ethics. You're going to be honorable. You're going to have integrity. You can go to the website to see what our values are and that kind of thing. All of that is there. Here's why I make the differentiation. Your meeting planners want professional speakers. They don't want the prima donnas. They don't want the folks that, you have to have blue M&Ms in your room, when you arrive to the hotel. That now there could be some NSA folks that do that. But my point is, by being a professional speaker, you have made a commitment to learn your craft and your business. Public speakers could be good on the platform. So, I get that. But that is not, for most of them, their primary focus. Many of them would be what we would call industry speakers. That is, they're high in their, whatever their profession is. They're a CEO of XYZ company. And oh, by the way, they speak a lot. And nothing wrong with that. But because they are not focusing on their craft from a meeting planner's perspective, the meeting planner will essentially know that if they hire an NSA member, a person with a CSP, a person who was awarded and inducted into the Speaker Hall of Fame, any of those kind of things, that is someone that they can make an assumption that they're following a code of ethics and they actually know what they're doing and they know what questions to ask the client. Now, again, of course, that doesn't, we're all human beings. That's not going to be everybody, but that professional speaker doesn't do any of that. I mean, that public speaker doesn't do any of that. Professional speakers join the association that is for their profession. And to your question, what could you learn? Why should you be a member? Why should you get engaged? Is for all of those reasons. And National Speakers Association is the only association in the US that has the wealth of information in its vault and among its speakers that will be able to direct you in the right direction for the kind of speaking, training, consulting, authoring, whatever business that you want. That is whatever aspect of using the spoken word that you want to build in your business, that you want to build the organization you were just talking about. You can learn from people on how to do that. So Cavett Robert, who was our founder, he used to call that learning from other people's experience, OPE, other people's experience. Yeah, OPE, he would call it. So you don't have to struggle all by yourself. You want to be involved in your local chapter. You want to be involved with Black NSA, which is a chapter, and it's virtual. So that makes it even better because they do many more virtual things than the other chapters do. You want to show up so that people see you're serious. I was talking to someone the other day that came to Influence. It was their first Influence. They did just join NSA, and they were very impressed with the people who received their CSP. And that person said to me, I'm going to be up there next year. I'm getting my CSP. And I said, okay, let's sit down. Let's chit chat. It will take you 5 years. You have to be a member for 5 years. And the person's response was, how come? I said, because that says to us, NSA, that you're serious about this business and that you have ethics and you're not just, you know, a fly in the wind that you just blew through here to pick up a credential and then leave, but rather that you're serious about it. So for all of those reasons, stay connected to Black NSA because you're going to continue to learn so much. Connect with NSA and get involved to the degree that you can. Be careful not to over volunteer while you're still building your business, but you do want to volunteer, even if it's just being a greeter at the door for, you know, people coming to the meetings, because that's how you connect with at a higher level than just hello. That's how you connect with other people who can support you and it be your mentors or be your allies, just other folks out there that that want to support you. And by the way, what I forgot to mention earlier, another tip is be clear on what your tagline is. So when somebody says to you, and I hate this, that NSA people will say, what do you speak on? We're professional speakers, use correct English. That is not correct English. So I know that's my own pet peeve. But anyway, I say, tell me what your area of focus is. You want to be able to give me an answer in a way that not only I might have another question, but what you want to do is to have an answer so that in an hour or in 2 weeks or in 2 months, when somebody is saying to me, you know, I'm looking for somebody who knows something about, I'll be able to recommend you. When I got serious about doing DEI work, every time I showed up at NSA, which was before I actually delivered diversity, but I was already studying it and putting together my materials. When NSA people would say, you know, what's your area of focus or what do you speak on? I said, diversity. And I got branded within diversity. I called it telling the truth in the future because I was putting it out there that I knew that's what I was going to be doing. And then part of what helped me build my business over time, as I developed relationships, is people within NSA referring me. So that, you know, all of those things can be helpful to you. And this is the place to learn it.
Thank you. I would say that I've already had a return on my investment just with that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Look forward to more conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for asking the questions.
Excellent. And I appreciate that question also. And I'll give you an example, what Lenora was making mention of, because myself, I transitioned from a corporate sales role to becoming a financial advisor, best-selling author, and now a professional speaker. But what did I do? I joined the organization. Not only did I join the organization, but I raised my hand to serve and be elected as an at-large board member, and now I'm the mentorship chair. So you put in the organization and you get out a lot from putting in, and then you receive the mentorship authentically and organically. So,
And volunteering at Black NSA, you get noticed within among some of the leaders within the larger NSA organization because they're always looking for leaders for something or for committee members for something. And particularly now that more and more people are recognizing that Black NSA is not just for Black folks, but it's for folks that want to be allies and folks that want to learn the kinds of things that we do here that are a little bit different than what NSA as an organization does. Anytime you're volunteering, then other people notice it and they are passing on names. As you know, I get asked all the time, do I know somebody that does something? You know, various things. And many times the answer is no, but oftentimes the answer is yes. And it's because I stay involved.
Great, great. So as we wrap up this session, and as we always do, we ask for testimonials. So we want to turn it over again to the attendees. If there's any testimonials, any major takeaways that you learned from today's session, we'd love to get your feedback, and certainly raise your hand if you be willing to provide a testimonial of today's session.
So, so this would be where I would have said, you know, if it was, I was talking to one person, so help me know what resonated with you so that I can repeat it.
Absolutely. So it looks like Alana's hand is raised, and congratulations, one of our new CSPs. Congratulations for this year.
Thank you. And thank you, Lenora, for inspiring me on my journey. And as I was hearing this, I just wanted to, so I wanted to point out, for one, the help me understand what I've said that resonated with you is such a key takeaway. So even when you were like teeing it up, I was like, oh, I was already going to mention that. And I wanted to share not only that resonated with me, but learning more about your international journey and how we could just expand some of our U.S. opportunities to the rest of the world, something you and I already connected about. So, and I want to thank you publicly as well to let people know that in the spirit of NSA, I'm still so blessed by the time that we spent on Zoom and every time I get to hug your neck. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And one more thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you,
Okay.
thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for me as well.
Lori.
Interesting enough, Alana said the same thing that I was about to say, is that you mentioned mentorship, and just in watching you over the years has made a big difference, and having the opportunity to organically have conversations with you and answering the question about global and international is so important to all of us here, because we are looking at Black NSA to be seen as the global place for speakers and with integrity and ethics, as you shared before. And you sharing the journey of how to do that internationally and globally makes a huge difference, because oftentimes speakers will say, I'm a global speaker, and they just happen to be in the country and spoke to someone. And so watching you receive your awards in Bali and seeing that you had been there for a long time and the legacy that you created is something that most of us aren't aware of, because we don't talk about that in a global conversation. So thank you for leading that journey, and especially today with you being very specific about how to make that happen, because too often people just say, well, just do this, but you stepped through each ways in which you did it through your personal journey, and that makes all the difference in the world, because we know you're not just sharing it for the sake of sharing it, but you gave us the tools, the resources, the technique, and the steps of how we can be more engaged globally, and we appreciate you taking the time to do that. So thank you.
Excellent. Robin.
Yes, I just wanted to say, first of all, just to second what Lori said, completely agree. You know, giving real, tangible tips and recommendations, and then talking about your lived experience, that is just something that is so helpful, because so many people, especially, you know, someone of your accomplishment, your stature, it would be so easy just to say, oh yeah, just go do this. But you gave real, tangible, concrete examples of what to do, and also just little things. For example, giving Aaliyah tips about what you need to do to stand out, because, you know, my background's as a filmmaker and journalist. Everybody says they're a storyteller. Well, what makes you unique? And so giving that advice on what makes you specifically, you know, qualified to do what you do is great. And I also have to just say one more thing, just your humility for everything you've accomplished and for all that you have done is just, it is so appreciated. I can't even begin to tell you. There are a lot, just at least in my industry, in media, a lot of egos, a lot of difficult people, and they're not the real deal. You're the real deal, and you have the humility and grace and generosity to share. So please know that that's really appreciated.
So I thought I wasn't going to have any tears on this call, but you made it happen. Thank you. I cry easily, for those of you who don't know.
Excellent. Any more that would like to share?
Yes, I would like to just thank her for bringing up the area of focus as some of the other panelists had talked about. It kind of helps me to kind of, not kind of, but look at things from a different perspective. So I'm grateful for that. And once again, like I said, the ROI for me was great. So thank you.
We appreciate your attendance. Got a nice referral and you followed through. And that's implementation. That's critical. That's key. Lethea.
So Lenora, one of the questions that I have is, I often hear people say, I don't have time to volunteer for Black NSA because I'm busy building my business. I don't have time to volunteer for NSA or to participate, for NSA activities because I'm busy building my business. What is a great response to give to someone who shares that?
So one thing that comes to mind is if someone were to say that to me and I really wanted them to volunteer for something that they clearly had the skills for, so I'm not trying to just push them, is, do you already know everything there is to know about building your business? And the answer is most likely going to be no, if they have any sense of humility. Then, one of the advantages of being a volunteer is that you get to connect with people at a deeper level. And that's where the gold is. That's where you learn something you wouldn't have picked up otherwise. That's going to make your business better. That's where you watch somebody in action, and that helps you know how you could be, not to mimic them, but to find your way of doing those same things. When you're busy out there just doing your own, building your business, that's a very lonely thing. And you don't have to be lonely. The other thing that comes to my mind is if it's a person that would like to volunteer, but they think they're too busy. Well, actually, two things come to mind. One is, are you using your time in the most valuable way? Because a lot of times speakers are really busy because you're trying to do everything and you just feel like nobody else can do it quite like you, when there are so many resources, both human and otherwise, that could help you be more efficient. So you do have time. And the other part of what came to me was, if there is something where two people could do it and it lightens the load, so two people can do it instead of one, then, well, I understand you're busy and other people are busy too. Let's see if we can figure out a way that this can be partnered, where there can be two people. So, those are some of the things that come to my mind. And while you all were giving me kudos, I have to tell you, as I'm looking at the gallery, I am just so deeply humbled that those of you that I'm seeing, that I know you've been in the business a long time and you took the time to be here today. It's just, I'm deeply touched by that.
Excellent. Excellent. Jason, looks like you have your hand raised. Would you like to share?
Yes, thank you. So first, Miss Lenora, I have to give a shout out to my fellow Brick City alum. I was born in Newark, New Jersey also.
What hospital?
The one that my father worked at. I don't remember the name of it.
So let me tell you why I asked that, because it's actually surprising you don't know. One of the things that I discovered after I had left New Jersey and I'd meet people from Newark specifically, they didn't say, what high school did you go to? Or what part of town did you live? They always asked me what hospital I was born in. And I know it. It's a Newark thing.
If I hear the name of it, I would know it, but I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Essex County Hospital.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. No, other places don't do that. Yeah, I'm sorry, I cut you off though, Jason.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to thank you for pouring into us. When I sign my books, I always write to people, be generous with your gifts and be intentional with your greatness. And I just wanted to thank you for doing both of those with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Great.
One other thing I wanted to add, because Robin, what you said just really touched me. So with people having egos and, you know, and being prima donnas, I'm just always taken aback that I have to remind myself as it relates to how people see me, especially when they don't know me. And I'm humbled by it, but I have to remind myself only because it's my job, I believe, to create a space where people know that I am approachable, that I'm human just like you. And even though I might have been doing this a long time, there is so much I have to learn to be better at what I'm doing. So I'm never thinking, oh, I got this. I'm usually thinking, who do I talk to next? Just like so many of you. I share that to say, when we are in the same space physically, at an NSA event or whatever, I walk fast. Do not ever think I don't have time to talk to you. I just walk fast. So don't assume, oh, she's too busy because she's on her way to something. I might be on my way, but stop me anyway. So, because I want to talk to you.
University Hospital.
Yeah, you remember now, right? We lived in the same neighborhood then.
Yeah, we lived in East Orange, off of Central Ave.
Yep. It's just a very unusual thing. People would ask what hospital you were born in, but I learned that it's a thing.
Yep. Great. Well, in the last few minutes that we have, I know that we are coming up on September 22nd with our Millionaire Mastermind. And Lenora made mention earlier that she's going to be participating again this session, our fall session. I know I'm going to be participating as well. Lori, would you want to take a few minutes to just share about the Millionaire Mastermind? And we want to encourage those who have not joined to join.
Thank you. And let me just say this. It is because of Lenora's participation many years ago during a time where I was trying to figure out what does my future look like, that through the Million Dollar Mastermind, as we were sharing in our accountability groups and our breakout sessions, that we got a chance to talk about mindset, which is very different than talking about what people do every day. And so what I would say is that it's often misconstrued what the Million Dollar Mastermind is. It's not a book club. We're using the Think and Grow Rich as the guiding principles of which we are growing our lives and our business. But we're talking about masterminding, and masterminding in the sense of a master class on mindset. So we would love for you to join us. It is a great opportunity to work with each other, to learn about yourself and reading the book, but the book will start to read you, but it's the dialogue that is so rich and so golden. And so when we started getting in these small groups, at first it was just getting to know each other one-on-one, and we don't get a chance to do that otherwise in having a virtual chapter. We started this virtually, and you'll get a chance to read the book and ask questions and then build partnerships and accountability. And so I will say that the accountability is probably the most valuable, but then we're moving the needle financially and then in your personal life. So I would love for you to join us. Jason is showing the book there. Anne McNeil is mentioned in this book, and she was the creator of this concept. And there's a formula in which we use. And I'll tease you by saying this, you just won't know what it's like until you're there. So please join us. We will be starting with the orientation on the 20th, and then we will start our sessions on the 22nd. And we would like for you to enroll, get your book, and be ready, and find a way that you can make it work and make that commitment. When I first started it, I would show up when I could. When I started showing up and being intentional, I saw the difference. And so that's what I would say is don't come just to observe, come to participate and be dedicated and be very intentional about what your goals are. And we collectively will help you achieve those goals. So I look forward to it. I am doing this alongside with Wyman and Lenora. Thank you for mentioning that. It's because the two of us do it together that makes it possible. And then we also have the leadership of the board and Lethea. And so we have leaders that are there, not just for the sake of it, but to lead each other. So thank you. And I hope you all join us.
Great. Excellent. As we close out, I'm not sure if Lethea, did you have some closing remarks that you wanted to share?
I am here. I just wanted to again thank Lenora, just give her more flowers and thank her for her time and her brilliance and just her continued support of Black NSA and NSA. And it's just so inspiring, Lenora, to see you so actively involved in Black NSA, even though you have, grown to where you are and you're operating at the level that you're operating and that you have had the success that you've had, that you still are very active in Black NSA, and we appreciate that. And it is a great role model for all of us.
Great.
You're
Excellent.
the wings
Thank you.
wind beneath my wings, for sure.
So on behalf of Black NSA, we want to thank you, Lenora. We want to thank you, our attendees, our guests, for participating. And again, the first Thursday of the month, this coming session in October, we're going to have John Register. So John Register will be our next mentor. So if you have not registered, but as long as you're a member, you're already registered. But put it on your calendar, plan to be there. More importantly, tell someone else to come.
Jason, can I quickly say this? Why this is so important?
Certainly.
Lenora was the trailblazer, and John is coming in 2 years from now in the same role that she started. So there's something to be said about the time that we spent together, because this is really a journey, and we are getting to experience that one-on-one that very few NSA members have that opportunity. So I love that Lenora not only broke the door open, but we have a legacy, and that legacy is being formed here. So please join us.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you so much
Make
for
it a great
having me.
day.
Thank
All
you,
right.
thank you, thank you.
All
Bye,
right.
everybody.
Take care.